this morning on Mornings in the Lab with Keith and friends, reinventing yourself, the journey to a brand new you, plus guest Dr. Raymond Abdulrahman joining us this morning. Mornings in the Lab with Keith and friends, the only morning show for men. Hey boys, get up, don't hit the snooze button. Welcome to Mornings in the Lab, where
when something negative comes up,
building muscle with the blood flow.
Nobody is expecting John.
if the lady's saying that, you're just
It's a super
Be entertained by fun over here.
How have I slept? Has my sleep been good? Is that
There we go, you guys. What's going on? Hey, it's the morning. It's the Friday loop. We're getting after it this morning, guys. Reinventing yourself, the journey to a brand new you this morning on Mornings in the Lab with Keith and friends. What's going on, Shinku? Good morning. I'm your host. I'm Keith Phillips over there. You got John Anderson lifting up some big things, putting him down, aging into his best version of himself. You got Steve Marty Fit, the boy wonder himself, Christopher Martin, joining us as well. Taking care of all the old folks in Maryland, making sure they're staying fit and healthy. We got producer Jimmy on the buttons, and we got producer Tommy over in the community and also on the buttons today. Hey, we got a 2-button show here today on Mornings in the Lab with Keith and friends. We got a guest, Dr. Raymond Abdulrahman joining us this morning from Manitoba. We're going to talk some psychology, clinical psychology, and maybe some DEI stuff along the way. It seems to be in the news, and old Uncle Keith feels like he wants to talk about it this morning, so we're going to get into that conversation today, plus a number of other big topics for the show here today, guys. How to be yourself on social media and how actually to win at it. John and Marty, listen, Gen Z, I think Johnny will be intrigued with this one because him and I grew up in the same area as the Gen Xers. But Johnny, Gen Z is uninterested in sex plot lines in TVs and movies. Go figure that. So we might have time for that conversation here today. And why skipping rest days? Why skipping rest days is sabotaging your strength and performance. You know, we're all about getting after it, achieving your big, audacious goals. And by the way, we do drop language here that might be offensive to the children. So if that's the case, I invite you to tell the children there might be some bad words, or to put the headphones in, or to walk them out of the room, or listen to us later. But if you listen to us later, it won't be live. So you want to hang out now, live, the only morning show for men, live, Mornings in the Lab with Keith and friends. Subscribe to the channel, like the channel, tell your friends you found these dudes that like to talk about great stuff. We talk about feelings here on the show, boys. We talk about feelings. We talk about being stoic, but we also talk about managing our emotions and getting through life and achieving big, audacious goals, all based around accountability. Hey, one last thing before I bring the boys and Jimmy. Guys, you know, if you're just kind of slowly getting after it today and you hit that snooze button, if you hit that snooze button, hey, Shinku, if you do snooze 9 minutes a day for the whole year, you're actually 56 hours behind the guy over there. Yeah, just to think about that. So, good morning, Rick Clody. Good to see you there. Yes, man. Yes, Ricky, we do talk feelings here on the show. You know how we like to talk about it. Bring your Kleenex, boys. We're going to talk about it here on the show. But listen, if you're going to hit the snooze button, you're going to be behind everybody else. So roll over and get after it today. And this is the show that'll help you get after it. You're going to get advice on this show. You're not going to get anywhere else. Yep. Between my experience, I did a couple things in my life. Johnny's experience, he might have done 1 or 2 things in his life. Marty's experience, he might have done a couple things in his life. Take our experience, wrap it up, free advice every single morning here in the lab. Or alternatively, you can pay us all significant amounts of money for private advice along the way. There you go. Jimmy, let's bring in the boys. Let's bring in the boys and see what's shaking. What's up, Mr. Anderson? How are you, brother?
what's happening, baby?
Oh, I'm good.
You hear me?
Good. It's just, I can hear you loud.
That was a delay. Forgive me. Yeah. I'm good, man. I'm good. I'll tell you, I'm extraordinarily grateful today for not only, it's really for my love, Terry, because she has surgery bright and early tomorrow morning.
yes.
And the poor thing has gone through so much pain in the last month. I mean, she wakes up every morning in brutal pain. And the problem is pain pre-surgery. It's you don't get to collect it. It leaks out of the bottom of the bucket. It's just complete anguish. As of tomorrow morning at 6:30 a.m., all that pain, we start to collect it and she gets better. Progress is being made. So I'm grateful.
Can you hear me okay, Johnny? I'm trying a new mic. Oh, good.
Yeah.
I gotta think, brother, that's right now in advance of the surgery, it's all up here, really, isn't it? Like it's all here. And I know it's here on the shoulder, but it's really here because, and I'm bringing the metaphor to life because we know this is where the pain is, but as we talk with AJ all the time, it's really here, right? Like it's got to start here and she's got to solve it, right?
Well, the thing was with pain is so psychological.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Because, to kind of go further what you're saying, because prior to her having a surgery date, the pain was basically felt worse to her because there was no end.
Yes.
As soon as there was, okay, here's the surgery date. Now it's like there's a plan of execution and things mentally started tightening up for her. And granted, I don't believe the pain was any less. It was just easier for her to cope with the pain.
Yeah, but you're right though, right? It's like that's Johnny, I would equate it to, hey, my greatest thing I like to do, which is running, right? So I had my 45-minute run this morning. I broke it up into a 10, a 30, and a 5, right? Because in my mind, well, hey, I can easily get through that. But what I was doing during my 30, Johnny, as I do these intervals, right? 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 3 minutes. And while I'm doing it, as I see it's tricking my mind into knowing what's going to come at the end. It's like Terry knows surgery coming. It's telling her mind that the end of the story is on its way. Like it's just around the corner, Terry. You just got to find your way to get there. And the end of the story is going to be here before you know it. Before she has that surgery, she's looking at this book wondering when's the story going to end, right? It's like getting onto a run. It's like me getting onto a run and you saying, "Hey, Keith, start running." And I'm like, well, fuck, when do I end? Like, God, don't worry about it. Just run. But I hate it.
Well, it's interesting though, brother. We talk about how I kind of count myself into my quiet space, my sitting in silence. So we actually do, like, counting is another thing I used to deal with, like severe pain, like if I was dealing with her situation like her. So imagine this, in many cases, like very often in the morning, I'm up at 2:59. So she knows I'm up out in the house and she'll wake up and she's just freaking in pain and she can't go back to sleep. And she'll come walking out of the bedroom, sometimes, 3:30, sometimes you just never know, when she's going to come walking out. And you can see she's just disheveled. She's just so she walks she walks straight towards me, puts her head right in my chest, right here. I put my hands around the back of her neck and we rock and we count.
Oh yeah.
And literally rocking and counting, it calms her down, and it's 1, 2, 3 in, 1, 2, 3 out, 1, 2, 3 in, 1, 2, 3 out. And next thing you know, it's all slowed down. It's almost like rocking a baby to sleep. You know what I mean? And it just, I can feel her angst slowly. And sometimes it takes a minute, sometimes it takes 10. And next thing you know, I can feel her kind of relax and I can feel her kind of let go because she's holding on around my waist. I can feel her letting go. So I'll start to let go. She'll turn and go back to sleep.
Oh, I love this. Johnny, this, that's intimacy at its finest right there.
Yeah. She just needs someone she's like.
No, but I'm suspecting, sorry to interrupt you. I'm suspecting.
Please.
You are getting as much out of this, and then the both of you are getting as much out of this, because when you're connected in that moment, it's like when you're rocking a baby to sleep, right? When you're rocking a baby to sleep, there's an intimate connection. And when she comes out, you're feeling like you can, you're there not solving a problem. You're there listening, you're consoling, you're empowering, you're loving, and there's a connection moment for the both of you right there, man.
100%. Being there for someone when they are in complete despair and they're needing that. It's like, in these moments, she's going to look back at our journey and she's going to see there's 2 sets of footprints, right? Yeah. And I have the same vision she does. And there's going to be different points in the journey where she's going to see one set of footprints disappear. It's because I was carrying her when she needed the lift.
You know what's awesome about this too, pal? Is that this story, and Jimmy, I'm glad we're recording this, man, because this story is the opposite story that people tell themselves when they're on their deathbed. Oh, I went to too many meetings at work. Or, oh man, I spent too much time in the corporate boardroom, right? Which is, no. I remember that time when my husband was walking me in and holding me tight. Yeah. Oh, were you a baby? No, I was 40 something, 50 years. We were connecting as 2 human beings. Like, that's very special, man. Those are moments you can't script that shit, frankly.
Yeah, it's pretty, you know, the connection is so mutual and so deep, and it's like her, you know, her connection is knowing that I'm there when she's at, you know, at that standing on the edge, and my connection is knowing that I can be there for her when so it's a coming. We're both benefiting, just like you're saying, but it's like the true yin and yang meeting in that moment, you know.
This conversation,
did I lose you, brother?
No, I'm still here. We're still here. Yeah. So
okay, you froze, but I can hear you. There we go.
So so tomorrow's the big day. What time surgery tomorrow for Tara? We're all going to be thinking about it. What time's it at?
7 a.m. I believe is when we're leaving at 6. We're supposed to be there at 7. Yeah, but we're making sure that we're getting there plenty early. So it's, you know, then obviously once you check in, who knows when the thing's going to kick off? You know what I mean?
Yeah. We got Rick Clody coming in and saying, yeah, you're right, Rick. Intimacy at its finest. You're so right. Because, you know, Johnny, in those moments when you and Terry are connected like that, and Rick, I think you can appreciate this too, nothing in the world matters, eh? It's nothing. Like, there's actually no problem out there that's bigger than what's happening to the two of you guys at that moment.
Yeah.
That's love.
because it's got to be, we both have to be completely present to deal with that situation.
That's right. Johnny, we're bringing in the young boy here. What's going on, Mr. Handsome?
What's up, man? What's going on, guys? OGs, what's up, man? What we got going on today, man? How we feeling today, man?
We're doing awesome. We're just talking about Terry's surgery tomorrow. Uncle Keith's got a new little setup here, Marty. Eh? See, I have the mic over here, but I'm also got it mic'd up over here, so I see you, man. I can move around a little bit and just do this shit over here. Hey, how were all the old white dudes in the gym yesterday, brother?
Hilarious. It's comical. It's comical, man. It's so fucking funny. And you, man, I'm gonna take a video today. I'm gonna take a video for you today, man. I'm gonna try to sneak one in, man.
Yeah, please do. That's fine.
It's hilarious, man.
Hey, so I have something fun I want to throw on the table here for a quick second. And I was waiting for you to come on the stage for this one, Marty. But so Gen Z is over sex in the movies, and somewhere along the way, Hollywood did not get the memo. And I'm looking to my boy Johnny.
You said over it?
Yeah, done with it. Yeah, and
like don't care. Yeah. I got the answer to this one, brother. Jesus Christ! Well, I'll wait to hear what you got to say, but I got this one pegged.
Well, because you and I grew up, Johnny, in the Gen X era with MTV, and we know how we grew up, and we know all the shit that we saw. Rick Clody, you know what I'm talking about. Sex was everywhere. It was absolutely everywhere, right? And I know it's had a massive effect on my life. But for decades, boys, Hollywood has shoved sex and romance into every storyline like it's the only way that humans connect. But Gen Z, they're not buying it. A UCLA study found nearly half of young people think sex in TV and movies is unnecessary. They don't want forced love stories. They don't need steamy scenes to stay engaged. What do they want? Marty? Your generation wants stories. Well, not your generation. Carter's generation wants stories about real friendship, ambition, and personal growth. That might explain why hold
on. I got the reason they want this in their movies is because they're fucking getting all the sex they need on Pornhub. The movies is like what?
Not even Pornhub, Johnny. Instagram. You can't open Instagram without seeing.
Okay, well, forgive me. The internet. You can get all the fucking porn you want on the internet. Why the hell do you want some not realistic porn in a movie? Give me a story. Give me something I don't get on social media. Which movies now have a completely different. I guess it's different theater than social media.
I'm with you.
Dude, when I was Marty, just so you know, brother, when I was young. When I was looking to jerk off, I was fucking looking for a little alone time in the bathroom with the fucking Sears catalog in the women's underwear section.
I was gonna say it's a Sears catalog.
That's the difference in times, right? Versus now these fuckers are just putting on some sort of phone protection device. They can go off on these internet sites and watch the nastiest shit on the fucking planet. That's the difference in the 20 minutes in the bathroom for the fucking 11-year-old boy. In over 35, 40 years? Unbelievable.
See, Marty?
Yeah, that's the underwear section is insane. I never heard of that. I never heard of that.
Well,
I thought he was going to say, they had like a little, maybe a fitness magazine with some women in it.
Oh, dude, no. Fitness magazines weren't even here yet.
Or something, keep in mind, something, man.
I understand where
Looking
you're
at
coming
underwear.
from, brother, because Keith and I could say we don't remember the time when we had to go kill a zebra to get something to eat.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Marty,
It's fucking crazy. What technology has changed our worlds.
I will agree with you. So, admittedly, I've spent many years off the gram, and I've been slowly working my way back on there to produce content and get back there. Marty, you're so right, man. You open that baby up, there's half naked women everywhere.
And it's like, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that was my.
Oh yeah, and it's every chick got an OnlyFans, and they they might post like a video in the gym doing squats, and then it's like go to her page and it's like sign up for my OnlyFans here. It's like, oh my god, come on, you can't get. So it does get a little overwhelming, and so I definitely understand it for them.
Hey, so Marty, here's a question for you, brother. So, true story, actually. So, as a young man looking to date, the dating world, you're meeting girls, and OnlyFans is a big part of the conversation today. Is that more common than we even think it is? Like, do most women have OnlyFans, Marty, in your age demographic and even younger? Would you say?
I wouldn't say most, but I think it's like 1.4 million on there. So you got to do a background check, and that's a deal breaker for me. I can't have that. No, I can't date you and take you serious, and you got to pay $4.99 a month to see your butthole online. It's not because that's sorry for anybody that if it got too explicit. I can't come home at night and that's my prize, but I could go get it for this random Joe on the street could get it for $4.99 a month.
Yeah.
So it's that's crazy. But there are a lot of guys that are open to that.
But it's also just, I mean, I guess for the flip side of that coin, is just kind of more of an ethical thing. You know what I mean? Yeah. Morality. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like, when I was younger, and forgive me, I'm not trying to alienate anyone, but I especially in college and right out of college, I was dating a lot of strippers, right? And I loved it. It was a great time. And most of them were doing it to get through college, right? That's what they said. But unfortunately, that was never happening. It just was a lot of crazy late nights, which that was the part I enjoyed. But what I'm getting at is, unfortunately, if someone had a fans only and said, I'm going to do this for 6 months so I can pay for college, and they did that, that's honorable. But when they do this and it's just literally they're not developing a skill, they're not developing character, they're not developing morality, they're not developing a passion, that's where kind of the line gets drawn. I can understand doing it for a purpose, a means to an end, but I don't think that happens very often.
So I got to be honest. I actually kind of forgot about this in my journey in life. We haven't talked about this, but Johnny, I was on the same page as you for a while there. There was a few strippers came through my world there in my journey in life, and that was an interesting time in my. Oh,
dude, I had listen to this, right? So I was frequenting the good ones, the good strip clubs. I liked the nicer ones, you know what I mean? Enough, right? So I ended up going to another city, meeting this chick. Right. And she was a stripper. So she comes, stays with me for the weekend. She says, oh, I'm going to go work at the Gold Club. I'm like, I don't think you want to go work there, because, when they're good, they can bounce around at these different clubs, And I said, look, enter at your own risk. Of course she goes in there fucking saying who she's came to visit, and fucking a bunch of them popped up. Well, you're third in line. Of course, that didn't go over very well,
Oh man! All right, boys. Well, I'm going to come back to this because I haven't even finished it because Hollywood keeps serving romance. Gen Z's not interested. We're going to come back to that. But here's what we're going to do, boys. We're going to do the accountability check-in. We're going to come back with our guest, Dr. Raymond Abdulrahman, and then we're going to keep the show rocking and rolling. And Shinku, any man that pays for OnlyFans subscriptions is the problem. I would even wonder this: any man that pays for porn on the internet has failed the internet. Yeah. True story. I'm just thinking that's what it is. All right, boys, let's keep it rolling here. We got the guests coming up here. But before we do that, let's do the accountability accountability check-in. Listen, what if your biggest win is now your biggest anchor? Think about it. The deal, that promotion, that moment you crushed it. Listen, it might be the thing keeping you stuck because those past successes, they feel comfortable. It convinces you that what worked well worked again. But here's the reality, it won't, because it got you here, but it's not going to get you to the next step. You know that extra gear you hear people talking about, like the Kobe's, the LeBrons, the Keiths, the Martys, the Johns? There is an extra gear. But you got to know when it's time to stop celebrating what worked and start building what's next. If you spend too much time celebrating yesterday, you're not going to spend much time celebrating preparing for tomorrow. When you're in rest and recovery phase, what you're actually doing is you're not celebrating what you've already accomplished. Nah, you take 5 seconds to do that. You take the rest of those 55 seconds in that minute to start preparing for what's coming next. That's how you win. That's how you move forward. So listen, you check your scoreboard. If your biggest win was years ago, you're coasting. Yeah. Oh, I can relate to that one. Why do you think I'm so fucking driven to do this right now every single day? My last big win was a long time ago. Yeah, I win every single day trying to do this. You got to question your playbook. Now, would you build what you succeeded at yesterday the same way today? Audit your circle. Listen, if you're the smartest guy in the room, you got to find a new room. Hear me clearly, boys. If you're the smartest guy in the room, go find a new room. There's no curiosity in the room. Nothing in that room is going to get you better. You think I'm the smartest guy around John and Marty? Well, fuck yeah, of course I am. All kidding aside, I learn something every single day from these two boys. Oh, baby, absolutely I do. And here's the thing, guys. Do something that scares you. Playing it safe is a safe, slow death. I invite you, take some bigger risks. Reinvention? It's not about forgetting the past. No, celebrate the past. Think about the past. But listen, it's about refusing to live in it. When you live in the past, you have no time for the future. There's your accountability check-in this morning on Mornings in the Lab with Keith and friends. You're getting after it, Shinku. I see you. There's no growth if you're the smartest one in the room. It's true, man. There's absolutely no room for growth if you're the smartest guy in the room. You might as well leave. You might as well go and dig yourself a hole in the ground because there's no room left for curiosity. All right, let's keep it rolling here. Jim, before we bring up our I'm moving some notes around here, Jim. As you know how the stuff works here on the show here. We're gonna bring up there's Marty there, and I am going to I'm gonna bring this up here too. So Jimmy, let's do this here. So Marty, Jimmy, oh, my words are all messed up. Listen, today's guest, boys, is a powerhouse in the world of psychology, leadership, and inclusion. And no, we don't have AJ Zeglin here. He's on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Dr. Raymond Abdulrahman is a clinical psychologist. Boys, I got him from Manitoba. He's just down the road. He's a speaker. He's a consultant who helps leaders and organizations navigate diversity, unconscious bias, and power dynamics. But behind the workplace, his work shines a light on the unseen struggles that men face, from internalized pressure to cultural expectations that keep them from seeking help. Dr. Abdulrahman, welcome to Mornings in the Lab with Keith and friends. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing pretty good. Thanks for having me.
Oh, we got you. Awesome. We're glad to have you here. Yes, we have a Canadian on the show, and yes, Shinku Psychology is a favorite of mine as well. Doctor.
What's going on, Doctor? How you doing?
How are you, Doc? Hey, forgive me, brother. I forgot. I got to flip the switch, turn the ventilation system on, or we're going to have a fire alarm here in just a sec. Give me 30 seconds.
You do that, Johnny. So, Doc, you're joining us from Manitoba today.
I am. That's right.
Yes, and so am I. I'm just up the road for you. So I got to ask you, man, I know you were like, what's the show all about, what we're talking about, Marty? And I'm like, hey, just go check the show. So I don't think you knew what you're getting yourself into this morning. Am I correct?
I did take a quick few peeks here and there. Yeah,
and you're like, what the is this I'm getting myself into? So, Doctor, we have a question we'd like to ask every single guest. I'm going to throw it to my boy, Christopher Martin here. We got a question for every single morning guest that we'd like to ask. And we're going to put you on the spot. It might be the most stressful question you have today. And Marty, you would agree, probably the most stressful question the guy's going to be asked all year, right?
And you know what? I've only been allowed to ask this question one time since I've been on this show. Exactly. So this is how special this is. This is like Marty's thing. This is so get ready. Marty does this the best. So come on. Here we go.
I didn't know John would be back from setting up.
It's like he was a 3-point specialist. He drains it from the outside. So here comes the question, baby.
Okay.
All right, Doc. The question of the morning. What is your morning routine?
What is my morning routine?
Morning routine, yes.
He's just like, you can see the air coming out of his screen there. He's like, that's it. I'm a fucking.
Where's the fucking question? Where's the question?
Yeah. He's like, I studied school. I'm a fucking doctor. I'm a psychologist. And all you're asking me is, what's my morning routine?
He's like, this is not a shot from the outside. What's going on, man?
Well, my morning routine is pretty simple. I wake up, I take my morning bathroom break.
Yeah.
I make sure I check the news.
Yes.
You know, and then I make sure I take care of my kiddo. I get breakfast ready, and then we're out the door. Simple morning routine.
So we ask and we have fun with the doctor because, the principles of this show is, we believe, myself, Marty, and Johnny, that success ultimately begins in the morning, which ultimately begins the night before. Getting to bed early, getting your sleep ready, getting your nutrition ready, getting your clothes ready so you can train properly. And we every single guest we have at this time, we like to ask this question because again, our belief is it's the most important way to start your day, and it's a great way to learn from others how they start theirs.
Yeah.
And as a doctor who practices psychology and clinical psychology, has this morning routine always been part of your journey, Doc, or did you have to figure it out along the way?
More important than maybe the morning routine is more of a metaphor of how you choose to live your life.
Yeah.
Right?
I was going to say, forgive me for jumping in, but I just was thinking to myself, guys, we haven't had that many people on here. We've asked that question with this many years of schooling.
Yes.
The way that he's had to live his life to get where he is, and he had to develop that lifestyle a long time ago to get through all that schooling just so he could exist here.
Yeah.
So, to a certain extent, some of this stuff is probably subconscious, just action. It's just it's his state of mind. This is how he is. He's just a successful dude. He's got it already programmed in him.
That's right. So, Dr. Raymond, play on that. Has it really been a big part of your life like that?
Well, like I said, to me, it's more about the planning, right? I always say, you can't have emotional regulation without cognitive organization. Like if you don't know where you're going, if you can't be organized in your head, then you'll be emotionally dysregulated. And a lot of the times where people get really frustrated and nervous about where they're going, and part of it is because they don't have a plan. And I think the plan is a critical thing about how to do that. So it doesn't matter what you do in the morning, so long as your vision ahead in life is planned. And that could begin at the beginning of the week, in the beginning of your morning, at the beginning of your year. And that's been an integral part of my life. That's a cultural part of my life, right? Like I grew up with that from day one. So I think that's probably the metaphor you're probably looking for.
Who taught you that, doctor? Was it your parents?
Yes, that's exactly what I was saying. This is amazing shit, brother. This is just you.
Yeah.
Hold on 1 second. Can you say that phrase one more time?
In order to have emotional regulation, you need cognitive organization.
I got you. All right.
Yeah, I mean, you got to have a plan to know, if you don't know where things are headed. I mean, whether I'm talking to executives or students, if you have not planned out where you're going, you're going to be emotionally dysregulated. Things that come your way that surprise you, that catch you off guard, you're going to freak out. And that's not going to allow you to meet your behavioral goals. So in order to have a path, you got to know where you're headed.
So is this something that your parents taught you? Did you discover it in your own journey? Was it friends? Was it through university, high school, as a young man? You talked culturally, where did you lean into recognizing that for you to be successful and have the career you've had and the family you've had, it actually starts with patterns and a plan, doctor?
Well, I mean, maybe the language that I used to describe it came through my time and experience working as a psychologist. Yeah. But the principles of it have always been there in family and community, right? So those are things I think people, I mean, if we look at the world today and how people tend to look at people who come from my background, it's generally a very negative point of view. And yet we don't recognize the wisdom that comes from different communities around the world. So like I said, it's my parents who taught me this. I mean, we came here as immigrants, and there's this thing called the immigrant effect, right? Apparently it lasts 3 generations, this need to survive and to kind of get through the world. That's there. But, culture and our upbringing was always about being organized about where you're going. And if you're not organized, you don't have a plan, you'll fall apart. And you learn that the hard way because sometimes you don't listen to your parents, right? You don't do what they say and you're like, oh, I guess they were right. They came with some experience. I kind of see where they were coming from. Then you put your own take on it, right? You take it, you apply your own experience, you put your own spin on it, and then you get to where you got to go.
Yeah. Hey, you're hanging with Keith, John, Marty, and our guest, Dr. Raymond Abdulrahman, this morning on Mornings Alive with Keith and Friends. The only morning show to men get their ass out of bed and not hit the snooze button. Hey, Dr. Raymond, did you know that if we hit the snooze button every single day for a year, we're 55 hours behind the guy that doesn't? 55 hours. So if I hit my snooze button every single day for 9 minutes, by the time the year goes by and you don't, you're 55 hours ahead of me in life. Think about that for a second. Yeah, true story. Anyways, listen, let's get after it. Let's, Doctor, do you have time to stick around for the next segment here for about 12 minutes, talk about diversity? Yeah?
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's do this. Let's get to the C Marty Fit Tip, and then we'll come back. I want to talk some diversity and equity. It's in the news, and I want to get a sense of how that's affecting doctors' world. But Marty, let's get after the Fit Tip, brother.
Yes, sir. Get off the screen, Keith.
Let's handle.
Jimmy, get it together, man. Come on, Jimmy. All right. We got one more on the screen. All right, cool. We're good. All right, man. I'm going to be honest. I don't have a fit tip today. I've been getting my ass kicked this week. It's been a long week. You see my hair sticking up. And I'm just being transparent with y'all. But what I can say is that's not going to stop the grind. No matter what type of week I have, no matter what happens, I'm still going to put myself first. Then I'm still going to prioritize my health. So if you're having a week like myself, I'm not having like a bad week or anything like that, but it's just been a long week. And like I said earlier, it's been kicking my ass. So if you're having a week like myself, right, if you had a couple workouts interrupted, if you had a couple late nights, not much sleep this week, honestly. I even had to finish my day early yesterday just because I got, I was tired. I had to get some rest. But I'm going to keep pushing. So I have to make up a workout this weekend, which normally I don't work out on Saturdays, but I have to make up a workout on Saturday. And that can be an option as well. But I want to work out for my longevity. I want to take care of the future me, the 10 years from now, Chris, the 20 years from now, Chris. So I have to put the work in now, no matter what happens. Ups and downs is going to be part of the process, but you got to stay fit so you can stay legit. That's the fitness tip for today.
Got to stay fit to stay legit. That's this year. Jimmy,
Yes, sir.
wrong here. Got the wrong.
Your mic acting up, Keith.
Yeah, Jimmy got the wrong. All right.
There we go.
Let's keep it rolling here, boys. Jim, Tommy, we got Dr. Raymond Abdulrahman, myself, Johnny, Marty here, Mornings Alive with Keith and friends. Doctor, I wanted to have a chat this morning, knowing your experience as an expert in DEI. Obviously, DEI is all over the news, and it's all over the world these days, and I thought we can have a little chat about it. And I see some comments coming in here that I'll just make the statement. People are tired of DEI. People are tired of talking about DEI. I asked my good brother here, Marty, obviously as a minority here, as a black man here on the show, like, and yourself as an immigrant, DEI seems to be, and I'm a white guy, John, but it's people are talking about it. Doctor, where do we start this conversation about DEI today? And I'd love to hear your point of view on it and how it's affecting your clients and people are coming to you at it. Let's get into it, Doc.
Yeah, I mean, if you're tired about hearing about it, it means you're not experiencing it, right? I mean, that's the basic bottom line. If you're sick and tired of hearing it, it means that you're not impacted by it. It means you have a great sense of privilege and you don't understand how bad the problem actually is. So what we don't recognize in today's world, let's talk about Canadian society here. Mm-hmm. 1 in 3 Canadians identifies as a person of color or somebody who's Indigenous. Mm-hmm. When we look at other polls, we look at the number of people who've experienced overt racism, not like passive microaggressions, but like overt like racism. 28%. That means pretty much anybody who's a person of color has experienced racism in Canada, and this is a society that we claim to be multicultural. Mm-hmm. If we think that we're multicultural, we have this bogus idea that we live in a multicultural world. I mean, just take a look at the holidays that we celebrate. You tell me that aside from the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, which is new, what diversity do we see in the culture of our holidays? We don't. Right. So I don't think that we live in a multicultural world. And so what happens is we've inherited this idea, we've been sold this idea that we live in a multicultural world. But when in fact, everybody in our country, in our society, who is a person of color has experienced racism. What does that say? We know this impacts job performance. We know this impacts the ability to get jobs. We know actually the pay gap, and we often are talking about the gender pay gap. What we don't recognize is the pay gap between white people and people of color is far greater than that between men and women. So we got a big issue. And if you're tired of hearing about it, as I said, you're not really experiencing how bad it actually is.
So, Dr. Raymond, one of the things that I'm proud of on this show, and one of the things that I'm proud of as a human, is I consider myself the conduit of conversation. I love having conversation. I love discourse, and I'm a big fan of being curious.
Totally.
And I went from being an entrepreneur into a corporate environment where DEI became part of the mantra. And I know that I'm looking at some of the comments here and some of the feedback I get from people is that some of the concerns with this idea of DEI, and Marty and I talked about it a couple of days ago, Dr. Raymond, is that when we talk DEI, we lead with skin color and race or gender, then we get skill set, which and in many ways it happened a couple weeks ago when the administration changed in the States, which was one of the folks from the previous communication director got up there and they showed a video and they introduced themselves as, I'm a black human who's gay, and now I'm the communication director of the White House. And the new person came up there and said, yeah, I'm the communications director of the White House. It doesn't matter what my sex is or what my gender is. And I think that's part of the problem that people are maybe tired of, is that why do we always have to lead with, the idea of what my sex is, what my gender is. As a result, I'm now valid for this role instead of I'm the best damn human. Like I asked Marty to join my show because he was the greatest dude at showing up. I didn't care what skin color was. I didn't care. I didn't care about any of that. Now, in the same breath, Dr. Raymond, I know that this show needs to be inclusive of our audience. And my audience is white men, Indian men, black men. So there's an intentionality around life as well that we need to, when we're creating a business, that we need to be intentional with our customers. There's a difference there. Am I not right, Dr. Raymond?
Well, let's break it down, and bear with me here because I'm going to go on a bit of a diatribe.
Yeah.
Ready? Here we go. Deep breath. All right. So, I mean, the issue here is that we think you're talking about the concept of meritocracy.
Yes.
Yeah. That it's about merit. And yeah, I agree. Merit's critically important. But what happens, right? If you haven't checked it out, I encourage you to check out a tool on my website, testbias.com.
Sure.
It really helps us recognize the biases that we carry. And so as much as we think that we're aiming for meritocracy, the truth is that many of us carry biases that prefer whiteness. And we tend to see across the board, whether you're racialized or not, we find that people tend to think that people who are white are local and therefore entitled to more, opportunities, and people who are people of color are foreign. So yes, the idea seems to make sense. Perhaps in the future,
and subconscious too, right? Sorry to interrupt, but you're right. Subconsciously, because I can see that happening, right? Where our eyes are seeing a white person, or our eyes are seeing a black person, or in our country, an indigenous person. Yeah, don't even know it, but we're actually making a subconscious judgment, is what you're saying.
It's crazy. I've never ever, these thoughts have never crossed my mind before.
Yeah,
like this is completely news to me.
What's that?
The idea of perception of people, and are you from here? Are you from there? It's like I was raised that people are people, and it's look into their eyes, not at the color of their skin.
You are correct, and so I think that leads us to talk about what racism looks like now. And I think in our heads we think about racism. We have these old visions of burning crosses on people's lawns, and we don't recognize the burning cross is now not on people's lawns, but it's in our mind, and people of color too. So my research finds that actually the people who are perpetuating racism are also people of color. Now, the reasons for that might vary, right? Many times people are perpetuating racism in order to keep themselves safe. People code switch all the time. I got a new book called Developing Anti-Racist Cultural Competence. It's not a huge book. It's a good toilet read. Might get you a little bit constipated, but it's a quick read, and it's something that gives you a lot of information of how this works. But the idea here is that we have inherited these beliefs because the culture around us sets up certain expectations of who we expect to be normal, who we think has Canadian or American values, and then we push back. Now, if you're second guessing that, I mean, just take a look at our political world. Yeah. People in our world have voted for certain people. And if you don't believe there's no racism in the world, just take a look at, the projective test that is our political landscape. So let's start with that. Now, I often say to people that the issues that impact people of color the issues of bias are the same issues that marginalize men. And people are like, what are you talking about? White men aren't marginalized. And a lot of my research is on how bias impacts people overall. And when we think about concepts of masculinity, so take, for example, the concept of male survivors of sexual abuse, right? It used to be that people thought that, women were more likely to be victims of sexual abuse than men and boys were. Research, when we change our definitions and we actually get past, kind of cultural kind of language of how we try to hide this information, research actually finds that men and boys are equally as likely to be sexually abused as women are.
Really?
And that women are almost as equally likely to be perpetrators of abuse as men are. And so this, if you're telling, if somebody's out there saying to me, racism doesn't exist, I'm saying that you're not mindful or educated or informed enough, or actually have an actual relationship with people of color to understand what their experience is like. And I say that people of color keep secrets because they don't believe that people will actually hear what they're saying and they'll be put down. In the same way that men keep secrets about their vulnerabilities. We show up here acting like we got to put on this bravado about who we are, when the actual truth of our human experience is hid from the people around us. Yeah. And so the people who are perpetually saying, I don't see any difference, the women out there who might be saying, I think I'll accept my man the way they are, would you really? Because I can tell you as a clinician, many times when men show up for who they really are and they express themselves to the women in their lives, the same women who are advocating against toxic masculinity are the same ones that emasculinate and put down their men for experiencing experiences that are just human. So I say that we are not, as human beings, really talking about the experiences of our humanity. And that includes whether we're talking about the experiences of men or the people of color. That said, they are not equal because there's a hierarchy, right, when it comes to issues. So people try to lump everything together. So it is not. There are certain people who have greater levels of marginalization and greater levels of discrimination. And people of color are always at the bottom. And even amongst people of color, certain people of color will be far below those of other people. And those things can vary from society to society, but generally across the board, this is the truth.
Wow. You're hanging out with Keith, John, and Marty and Dr. Raymond Abdulrahman, dropping nuggets this morning on the show, brother. Wow. So Marty, Johnny, Dr. Raymond's like, what are we going to talk about? I'm like, that's a show. We'll see where it goes. And I'm liking where this is going, man, because you're dropping some really good, this is the great kind of conversation that I really aspire to have on this show. Dr. Raymond, so let me ask you this.
Can I just add something real quick before
Marty,
you go?
Please.
First of all, I love everything you're saying. I'm learning a lot.
Yeah.
And what I've learned in my life is sometimes experience is education along with education.
Yeah.
So like a lot of people underestimate human experience. So that kind of just goes in line with everything you just said, whether that's being a man, whether that's being a person of color, or whether it's listening to someone and letting someone open up to you and allow them to be themselves. So 100%, man.
And Dr. Raymond, one thing you'll know about this show and myself and John and Marty is that we invite people to judge the book, us, by the cover. Because we're really actually about it. We're actually about feelings. We're about sharing emotions. We are very much about standing here naked and raw and encouraging safe, vulnerable conversations. We are very much about that on the show, trying to change the paradigm shift for men who think that they can have feelings. We're like, no, have feelings. Let's talk about them, but we still got to get shit done, right? So there's that balance. Right? We still got to be the role. But Dr. Raymond, I think an important question. Because this weekend, there's a massive cultural event happening in the United States. It's a global event. It's called the Super Bowl. And there's a massive influence behind that, which is the NFL.
Yeah.
This weekend, they have made a point of removing the words in the end zones and racism now. The NFL, one of the biggest brands in the entire world, the biggest stage in the world, has removed the words, and I'm gonna hearken, Marty. What 80, probably 90% of the athletes are probably black. They're thinking the NFL.
Yeah, you got. After Doc goes, you gotta let me chime in on this.
I'm curious. Yeah, because I'm curious about your feedback on that, Dr. Raymond. They're basically saying we're getting rid of that statement, Dr. Raymond.
Yeah, I mean, we move into really dangerous territory to deny. I mean, we're talking about denialism here, right? It's like we're removing all sense of science. Like there are psychologists who study this stuff left, right, and center. We got a shit ton of data talk about how bad I've done a shit ton of data. I'm sitting on a pile of data right now that's so big, I don't even know what to do with it, right? But the little bit that we're finding out is like, holy fuck, what does this tell us about our world?
Yeah.
And I did a lot of research on like my master's, my PhD were all in areas of male survivors of abuse. A shit ton of data again. But we are more likely to be able to talk about white men's problems than we are to the problems of men of color. And that says something. But irregardless, we're in a serious form of denialism that if we move away from a sense of science, we are living in a dangerous world.
Oh, this is awesome. Dr. Raymond, I'm a huge fan of yours, brother. Keep it going. Marty, I want to hear what you have to say, brother.
I'm gonna try to keep it brief, but
no, take what you got.
I'm 50-50 on this. So of course with Dr. Raymond, like I agree with that 1,000%. We're entering dangerous territory, and we do need to. I think we do need to keep that in the end zone. But at the same time, racism has been a detriment to my community to where we use it as a crutch too, to not elevate and to not put the work in. Right? You compare yourself to a white man who's in a position you want to be like, oh, he got it because he's white. No, you haven't been putting the work in. You sitting here smoking weed and drinking every weekend. That's why you're not there. So at the same time, I'm kind of relieved because we need to take emphasis off of racism, at least in my community. I don't know about other communities that experience racism, but I know it's actually hurting my community too. So at the same time, we're entering dangerous territory, but there needs to be some emphasis taken off of it. Just my opinion and from my experience. Go ahead, Doc.
Dr. Raymond, I'll throw it to you quickly, but just one second. But Dr. Raymond, I think we experience the same thing here in Canada with the Indigenous population, don't we, Dr. Raymond, where the similar things that Marty would say, some of the folks in Canada might say about the Indigenous population here.
Well, we think that, right?
Yeah, yes, thank you. Yes.
So, I mean, let's remove any layers of racism, race, ethnicity, and culture. Let's remove all of those.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, we are all human beings, right? And we're going to have human beings who are going to look for crutches. We're going to have human beings with personalities that are difficult. We'll have human beings who are active and engaged and human beings who are lazy. This is going to happen. And look, it doesn't matter whether we have, like, the words end racism now don't necessarily mean that that's an automatic crutch. It's going to, you could not have that. You'll have black people who don't want to do the work. We're going to use another crutch. Look, this is not about that. And the truth is, we also have to recognize like the generational impacts of racism. And so if somebody, let's say Black, Indigenous, is facing challenges, we can't automatically assume to them that, you know, hey, you're doing this because you're lazy, not because of racism. They may be lazy, but we have to understand that there are impacts of generational abuse on the personalities of people, right? It's like saying to a white guy, you're a dick, you know, and you're just using your abuse as a child to be a dick. And it's like, well, no, wait a second. There was a clear psychological consequence of that abuse that led to a sense of protection, that led to a personality, that led certain men to be defensive. Now, it doesn't excuse shitty behavior, but we have to understand where people came from. And if we don't start to recognize where people came from and how we develop, how our minds develop, how our personalities develop, and we move, and we're not going to pay attention to all the things that influence that, like I said, we're in for dangerous territory.
Yeah. You're here with Keith Billis, John Anderson, C. Marty Fit, and Dr. Raymond Abdulrahman. We're going to wrap up the conversation. We could go a long time with this one, which I love, and I would love to have you back. Dr. Raymond, you've been hanging out with 20, almost 30 minutes. I want to wrap up with you, my friend. How can folks find you? How can folks connect with you? I'm getting a lot of comments in here in the feed here. I can tell folks are really taking a lot of interest in what you're having to say. Amy Reinhardt's a big fan. I can tell you she's going to be connecting with you on LinkedIn, Dr. Raymond. So I can. She's a big listener of the show out of Boston there. Dr. Raymond, how can folks find you? How can they connect with you? And will you come back and hang out with us again, brother?
I'm delighted to have these conversations. You know, just as a little shameless side plug, I've got a small podcast called Different People, where we have these difficult conversations about race. Season 3 is my favorite. So if you want to listen to that, I'm on Instagram. It's at dr.r. and then my last name, Abdulrahman. I'm on LinkedIn, and if you check out my website, leadwithdiversity.com, that's my consulting website, and clinicpsychology.com is our team's clinical website.
Marty, Johnny, anything final words for Dr. Raymond?
Good shit, brother.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Great shit, brother.
Yeah. So, Dr. Raymond, I got to tell you, man, I know you didn't know what you were getting into here. And one of the things I pride myself on this show is that it's unpredictable. You know, there's some days we're talking about Bonnie Blue who's sleeping with 1,100 men. There's some days we're talking about the best sex positions we should be having. There's some days we're talking about diversity and racism and inclusion. Some days we're talking about opiate addictions and the challenges that men are having with or getting up and just getting their shit in gear. So, man, the nuggets and the value you brought here today, I'm forever grateful.
Massive.
For your time. Yeah,
Massive.
I'm really grateful, man. I really am. Thank you.
Yeah, no, my pleasure. I'm happy to talk about all the other stuff too.
Awesome. All right, Dr. Raymond's going to get out of here. We're going to have him back, my friend. I can tell he's going to be a favorite of the lab. And I'm going to wait till he comes back a second time before I give him the GOAT label. That's what I'm going to do here. So let's do this. So let's go to the lifestyle tip and let's come back with let's come back and keep.
Come on, man. Come on, man.
I was scared to death. I was scared of what people were thinking about me. I was worried about, was I wearing the right clothes? I was worried about, did I say the right things? I was worried about everything that other people might say or think. And it literally put me in my own prison. I was an extremely unhappy human being. Thank God, somewhere in my early 20s, I realized I had worried myself so sick. I'd had enough. I didn't care. And because I got to that point, I took that step and I started to do what I wanted to do without worrying about what everybody was thinking. And it was complete freedom. And it was shortly after that moment that I realized that nobody was watching me anyway. Nobody was really giving a shit what I was doing. It was all in my mind. Then I went a little further to realize that the most narcissistic thing that I could do was to believe that everybody was worried about me. So remember, you know, if it comes down to just taking that leap of faith and just doing what you want to do to see what type of reaction that you get from people, you're going to realize nobody gives a shit. And you're going to basically break down your own prison walls. And you're going to start to live a life that's going to be much more fulfilling. You know, I was a fat little boy with a whopping learning disability. So I always say, look, if I can do it, I promise you, you can too. Might have been one of the most liberating decisions I ever made in my life. Check it out. Rock and roll.
Good stuff from Johnny here this morning on the Lifestyle Tip. Johnny Anderson dropping nuggets every day. Boys, that was a good conversation with Dr. Raymond. Let's keep it going for a couple seconds here before I want to go back to our Hollywood Gen Z discussion. Marty, how do we close out that with Dr. Raymond? Any closing comments from you? I love what you had to say because I hear your perspective on the 50-50 thing. And what I like about it is that what I like about this conversation is that there's no end to it. And it's just, and as long as I'm just hopeful that we as humans can keep talking about it. Does that make sense, Marty?
Yeah, definitely, man. It needs to be talked about.
Yeah,
people need to be heard. You know, there was a couple things I agree with most of what he was saying. A couple things I disagree with.
Yeah,
but you know, we're short on time.
Yeah,
but it was a great conversation. He opened my perspective. I'm sure he opened y'all two perspective 100%. As well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I'm kind of like Johnny though. You know, I kind of grew up with, you know, just people are people. You know, like I said, my stepmom is white. You know, and she treated me like her son my whole life. I met her when I was 5. Mm-hmm. So I kind of just grew up like that. And when I would go visit my dad, I had my white friends there. When I'm with my mom, I got my black friends. And I didn't really see the racism until I started going to white schools. Yeah. I was like, oh shit, what the fuck? So, but it still didn't like change my perspective of any other race. But I just, you know, just something you kind of dealt with, but it is what it is.
Well, yeah, and the thing about it is it's a hard topic because you got two sides to play.
Yes.
But one of the things that it's just a concept and it can be applied to this, it can be applied to so many other things in life, is that, you know, where we put our attention is what we're going to get more of. So with racism, which side of the fence are you putting your attention to? Are you putting your attention like I wrestled with a guy named Shelton Benjamin. right? The guy was just
Hell yeah, I know who that is.
yeah, good.
Yeah.
NC2A champion for wrestling. I mean, just a fucking unit, right? Equally looked as good as I did, you know. But he fucking guy worked out rarely, eating fucking Kit Kats. I'm chewing on hard-boiled eggs, drinking fucking protein shakes. He sat right across from me on a tour bus. He's eating fucking Kit Kats all the time. And I'm sitting there going, God damn it, Sheldon, you son of a bitch, you know. And he's peeling back that Kit Kat, and he's, you know what? Because 2 generations back, or maybe 3, his great grandfather was a slave, right? And so he's like, you know what? I thank my ancestors. They gave me this great life. He put his attention on the right side of the fence. He could have been playing the other side. He could have been playing the other side of the race card, but he looked at it from the standpoint of, look at the blessing that this gave me. So he's a very unique situation, right? You know, he's like, I've been genetically engineered. Yes, I can do this.
That's crazy.
But anyway, point of being is that it really comes down to a lot of issues in life. Which side of the fence are we putting our attention to? You know,
Well,
because we put our attention to the wrong side, and that the wrong side can grow, and we really want the wrong side to kind of dissipate because we're putting our attention to the positive side, and we're taking the positives and not the negatives.
we have Shinku coming in here, Marty, and I'm intrigued because, you know, your comments, you know, somewhat similar, but Shinku says, you know, same with me. I grew up in the 90s and racism was rarely a topic. My friends are all races. I never saw skin color. Now, some would say if you don't see skin color, then that's a microaggression because there are problems with skin color. And
damned if you do or damned if you don't, man.
That's thank you, Marty. No,
Well, it's exactly what I'm saying. What are you going to do? You can find an issue if you look for one.
Well, so I said that on purpose because even something that Marty, I really enjoyed the content you dropped on the socials yesterday around. You had a little rant on the folks that are going to beat up on the president for one thing or for the other thing, and it's like you're damned if you do, damned if you don't, right?
Yeah.
So, and
no safe space.
Yeah. So and again, that's why I believe, anyways, at least Uncle Keith believes that's the point of this show. Let's talk about it, right? There's not a right or wrong answer here. There's not a right. You know, I really respectful and enjoyed all the things Dr. Raymond had to say, and I'm really curious about all the data and all the surveys and all the information he's gathered. But then to hear you talk about, Marty, you know, you being raised in white families and with white kids and not seeing color, I'm like, well, dude, but you're the black guy. But I didn't see any color, Keith, because then the other folks are going, well, dude, but you're hurting us who are not seeing those type of things, right? And like you said, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right?
I look at it like this too. You know, you're either looking for a reason to be held back or you're looking for a reason to overcome. So
yes,
I'm trying to overcome that shit. So I ain't got.
Yeah.
I ain't got
Are you
time
looking
to
for
blame
reason?
Shit.
You're looking for a reason to do or a reason not to do. That's what I would say. Listen, if you think about going to the gym, you're going to find reasons to go to the gym.
Yeah.
You think about not going to the gym, you're going to find the reasons not to go to the gym. It's people don't understand you become what you think about, but you got to think about the right shit.
Yeah. Well, and Amy pops in here, which is DEI isn't just about race or gender. And Amy, you're right. You know, in many ways, DEI is also about where people are working, right? There's been a big push in the last couple of years, Marty. We talked many times about remote work, right? Where you got to come to the office. Marty.
And I'm glad Amy said that because it turned into race.
Yes,
like
you're right.
Over the past week or two. And it's not just race and it's not just gender. It's a whole, it's a lot of things. But, you know, people are so sensitive about race, which goes back to my point that you think it's all about you and it's not. So let me stop before I go off.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's so true. It's so true. I mean, like in my lifestyle tip, you know, when people think that it's about them, that is like the most narcissistic thought that you can have. You have people say, "Oh, he's a narcissist because he's doing what he wants to do and he's outside the box." No, you're a narcissist because you're fucking stuck inside the box, worried that everybody's looking at you.
Yeah, we had a guest on the show a few weeks back who's in this space as well, and she wrote a great post about DEI and what it really is and what it needs to be. And I think what, you know, and I'll be honest, I'll be really frank. So when I was working in the corporate world of ICUC, when we had to be a part of DEI, Marty and Johnny, it felt to me like it was like this idea of checking the box. Okay, we got to make sure you have that person there and have that person there. But from my mindset, the culture of our company was inclusive. It was diverse. it was that way it was the culture of the business. It wasn't there because it was a have to check the box thing. It was a hold on a second. That's the most talented human being. They happen to live over there. They happen to be a person of color, but they're really good. And that to me is what we lose sight of. And when you come to DEI, it goes back to where you're working. Inclusion is that I want your results where you're working. If it's in the office, if it's at your house, if it's in the fucking beach, if it's in the ditch, include me in the work. That work is work. It's results. It's not where I'm actually getting the work done. And that's where we've lost the conversation with DEI as well, because it's like, well, no, you got to go to the office. Well, that's not being very inclusive.
Yeah, I got into it with a friend of mine not too long, a couple years back.
Yeah,
and basically, they asked me if someone offered me a job for X amount of money, would I take it to train them? And I was like, they offer me because they're checking a box with a black person, or they offer me because they think I'm great. And they were like, no, they want to hire a black person. I said, I might not take it.
Yes.
That's just me. I work my butt off for you to acknowledge, how good I am. I don't work my butt off for you to acknowledge my skin color. I ain't got to do shit for you to acknowledge my skin color.
Oh, fuck, I love that, brother. That's exactly it. Because you're like, no, I'm Christopher Martin. I went to school. I'm a smart dude. And and then you go through your list of your resume, and then at the end is, I happen to be a black dude. That's what you're saying. Exactly what you're saying.
Yep. And I'm proud of it.
Yeah.
I'm proud to be black. It's proud as fuck, but that's not what we're here for.
Exactly.
I love what you're saying, brother, but I just want to be the devil's advocate. Not to say I disagree. I love what you're saying too. I'm fucking proud of you as well. I love your position about being proud of who you are. It goes back to even fucking owning your name when Joe Fontana, yeah. So I want you to understand how much I agree with you. But the flip side of the coin would be, why worry about what someone's intention is? Just fucking change their life.
Yep.
And show them that it doesn't fucking matter that way.
Yep. I agree with that. That.
Good conversation, boys. Anybody tuning in right now who does not expect this dialogue from this show is fucking clearly misspoken, because and I love it, man. We go from Bonnie Blue to having crazy sex stories to some deep dialogue amongst three men who have people tuning in going, what the hell are these guys talking about? So I love it. I know we got to keep it rolling here. Marty, what do you got going on today, brother?
I'm in the gym with the old white guys.
I heard you. Are you gonna rest, recover today? Are you gonna do a little workout today? What are you gonna do?
No workouts today. I might take today and tomorrow off, man. It's been a hell of a week. And, but I am gonna do my show tonight. Awesome. And that's about it, man.
All right, guys, check into the C Marty Fit podcast.
Sheik will be on there sometimes.
Oh yeah, there you go. You know where to find Marty. And Johnny's waiting for Johnny's still waiting for his invite, I'm thinking.
The only thing is, man, that's Johnny's Terry time, know?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I didn't realize that there was a time here. Usually I'll be.
Yeah.
What time do you do this thing? Is it live?
It's live 9 or 10 o'clock, depending on the
only reason I brought Marty on the show because he was the only live dude. I gotta crack a joke, Marty. He was the only live black dude going live, and I'm like, I gotta find a live black dude. That's not the soundbite we're cutting here, guys. I was like,
so that's fucking good, bro. I didn't realize that. Good for you, brother. It's live every day.
So Sunday, Wednesday, Friday.
Yeah.
And so it's at what time again?
10 o'clock Friday, 8 o'clock Sunday, 9 o'clock Wednesday.
Yeah.
8, 9.
Yeah,
10.
yeah. That's right. Dead center in the Terry time. So I'd have to bring Terry with me.
Oh,
Marty, we could do that too.
It could be after.
That'd be fucking funny. Yeah.
Terry quickie, then they can come.
Yeah, if you want some fun, like if it's just supposed to be kind of crazy, ranty shit, you could get her going on some of the weirdest shit that I've been doing for the last 40 years.
Shinku coming
we can do that too.
Where big backs get cooked. Evenings in the lab with Christopher Martin, C Marty. But Johnny, true story here, quick 20 seconds here. The reason I knocked on Chris's door when I'm like, hey, what do you want to do this live thing with me? Is that he was on my show just like you were at Live in the Lab. And then I watched him on Instagram and I started watching him on YouTube and I was fucking laughing at the guy. And the guy just make content. He's live. And a lot of the people want to go live. So the guy made great content on Instagram, doing this live show. And most are scared of live. So I was like, hey, do you want to come be on the show? And I know back and you're like, who the fuck's this dude? But it's all because he was doing live content. It's exactly
good for you, brother. You know, and I'll be totally honest. There's a little piece of me that feels bad that I didn't know that you were doing that live. But I guess what that just displays is the focus that I have on my own progression. That makes sense.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
go.
Yeah.
All
Hey,
right,
real quick, Keith,
yeah.
that was the first video you were laughing at was the concert in the step class, and I was like, what the hell is this?
We got to bring some of that shit up here. Hey guys, listen.
Okay.
If you want to, I will invite everybody listening right now and those tuning in later. Go listen to Chris's Instagram and TikTok yesterday. He drops a wonderful POV from Martin's opinion about just what's going on, and it leans into our discussion this morning. I got a lot of love for that opinion. I got a lot of respect for our brother. So you know what, Martin, you know I have time in the world for you. I always have all the time in the world for you. You get after it, brother. Johnny's gonna go for a break, and we're gonna come back and keep working towards wrapping the show today. Get after it,
Have a good loop, brother. Have a great loop.
I'll see y'all Monday, man.
All right, Marty. See you, pal.
Yep.
Okay, Johnny, gotta go for a break, and Jimmy, we're gonna keep it rolling here, brother. There we go. All right, what a show here. Wow, Amy, I appreciate your comments there. Yeah, I would say this is one of our best. This is one of our great shows. A lot of depth to this one, and again, this is what we're trying to create here on the show here. Good time, Shinku, and everybody. Unpredictable conversations that we don't know is going to happen, and we go from one topic to the other. We started the conversation this morning about Terry's surgery coming. Johnny's wife Terry got her surgery coming up in a couple of days, and I'm just getting the burps out of myself here. Sorry with all of that. I think you guys can still hear me. Jimmy, can you hear me still? I think you can. But listen, I moved away. I got this 2 new mic setup going on here. Jimmy, can you hear me? Awesome. Good. Cool. So we started the show. With talking about Johnny's wife going for surgery. She's got that coming up tomorrow. And we talked, and in many ways what we did, guys, with that topic was we lined up this whole idea of when we're walking towards something we hate, when we know there's nothing to turn the page from, it's struggling, it's scary, right? You're like, oh, I gotta go achieve this goal. It's like my run this morning. I look towards the end of it, right? So we talked about that earlier this morning. We also talked about we're gonna continue the conversation around Hollywood serving romance. Gen Z's not interested. I grew up in an era where I think Amy did as well, which is every TV show, every movie was just sex. Now Gen Z is like, wait a minute, we don't want to have sex in movies. It seems forced and it seems ridiculous. And that was one of our topics this morning. And then Dr. Raymond Abdulrahman came in today, and we first of all talked about his morning routine and how that set the foundation for his life and where that started in his journey as a young man. We then continued the conversation with Dr. Abdulrahman regarding diversity, equity, and inclusion. We talked about race. We talked about remote work. We talked about microaggressions. Fascinating conversation with Doc this morning, and really looking forward to chopping that up and getting it out to you guys. And it begs the question, right? And you heard Martin's point of view earlier. The NFL this weekend, one of the biggest stages in the world is erasing the words "end racism now," and what does that mean? And Dr. Abdul talked about that's denialism, and we know that racism exists, and are we moving into a world of denialism and pretending these things don't exist? So great, fascinating conversation in the first hour. And now we're going to work towards the second hour with myself and Johnny, and we're going to get to the creator spotlight here towards the end of the hour here. But Johnny, as I kick the show off today, and I know you and I, the Gen Xers here growing up here, and I'm talking with the Gen Zers. So your kids, so your youngest is a Gen Zer, no? Like your youngest daughter's a Gen Z, because I know Carter and Piper are Gen Zs. You got 3 of them. I think your youngest is a Gen Z, no? Oh, you're muted. There you go. Nope, lost you there. There you go. There you go, brother. Yeah. Okay, so I don't think she is. Maybe she is part of Gen Z, but so anyways. So Hollywood keeps her. So 44% of Gen Zs, Marty. I'm sorry, Johnny. 44% say that romance in media is underused, and you're muted on the horizontal feed there, Johnny. So yeah, 44% say romance in media is overused. 47.5% say that sex isn't needed for most plots. And it's funny, man. I'm a proud creator. I love watching movies and content and how it all comes together. It's hard to argue with that. You watch shows or movies and content from time to time. You're like, why did they insert that there just so they can have the girl take her top off?
Well, yeah, I was going to say, because if a story is really done right, the idea that they're going to have sex can be shown by them walking into a room together and closing the door.
Yes.
But obviously showing some nipple, it's going to sell some tickets.
Yes. Yep. Exactly it. Exactly it. And I find it, but I know I find myself as a human, I can tell when things are gratuitous. Like you just said, You're like, oh, so the director there wanted a gratuitous scene to sell some tickets because they really didn't need to do that. Right. So 51.5% want more content centered on friendships, 39% want more romantic and asexual characters. And what I find fascinating is that Hollywood keeps pushing the same formula, but folks just don't want it. They're like, no, we want friendliness. We want nice, soft conversations. Put the sex aside. But again, ironic, right, Johnny? Because porn, and I think we're going to have a topic. We're going to have a conversation here in a couple weeks or next week or so around the pornography addiction or challenges that men, women, that society is facing today. What are your comments on that, Johnny? Pornography.
You know, I think unfortunately it became I mean, goodness, if I was living these times, I would have been subject to it because I mean, if I was a kid right now, you know, because I was pushing the limits to try to learn more and see more about sex when it came to even, you know, finding a Hustler magazine and keeping it stashed in the woods, you know? So, but here's the thing. I think that by kids being able to see a lot of, you know, really sexual stuff, it's misleading. And I think they get the wrong idea about what sex is, you know? So I think to a certain extent, you know, when kids are being schooled with sex by Pornhub rather than their parents, it can have kind of a detrimental effect.
What I think that's part of the problem, right? And we talked about this a couple weeks ago where, you know, that's where a lot of sex education is happening, right? Is Pornhub and places like that.
It's most times it's the wrong education. It's not reality. You know what I mean? They have these ideas of what sex is supposed to be, when in actuality, that's just what gets a lot of views. Yes, absolutely. Hey, you said something a while back, which earlier in the hour, which is quite intriguing to me. Your 21, 22-year-old daughter comes to you and says, Dad, I want to set up an OnlyFans page. What's your reaction? I mean, my first thought would be, I want to know why. I'd say just, okay. I would definitely not like impact her explanation with a negative response. It would be neutral. I would want to truly know where it was coming from. And, you know, I would hear what she had to say. And then from there, we would, you know, I guess deal with. My first honest thought would be, did I do something wrong? You know, did I not raise her in a way that made her feel like she could take a different path? Right.
So I have two daughters. It's a fascinating one for me as well. Right. Like, is there a way to empower our girls to, like, that stuff's not going away? And you're not suggesting, we all don't want our daughters spreading their legs and becoming, you know, porn stars or porn actresses. But is there a way for a female to go about it in a, like you said it, if your mission is to go and pay your college off, and to do that is taking sexy nudies of yourself in the bedroom, that's all you're going to do.
And that's where it would be with my daughters. Like, hey, you know, I'm going to pay for your college. You know, if this is because, you know, you don't need to do this. It's just a monetary thing. You're not in a position where you need to do this. Why do you want to do this?
Yes.
Would be my question. Because I believe I raised them with the idea, you know, that's, you know, like I spoke earlier in the show.
Yes. I know what you mean. I know exactly what you mean. Yeah. And the question, and when our daughters come to us, just like we talked to Bonnie Blue, the question really comes back to us, right? Like us as a father. What have I done wrong? What could I have done differently? You know, what did I show her that makes her feel like she needs to do this, right?
Yeah. I'm not judging anybody. This is just my set of values, my morals that I instilled in my children.
I'm on the same page. I spent my time in the strip clubs growing up and wondering about the girl on the stage, who her dad was, right? And what that dad was thinking, or the Bonnie Blue thing, and wondering what dad's going through, right? Like, or of all those OnlyFans, like, how many of the OnlyFans creators, their dads know that they're doing what they're doing? Probably not many, is what I'm wondering, right? Adam comes in and says, I would disown my daughter. Right?
Well, and then see, there's the flip side of that coin, where there's the dad who, you know, never applied himself to life, and all he does is stare at the dollar bill, And now that his little girl's making some, he's pushing her to do it more because his values were never put into a position, properly from my opinion.
Yeah,
that makes sense. So I'm sure I think there's both sides of this fence going on out there.
Yeah, and then you got some of those greasy dads probably pimping out their kids by getting them onto the OnlyFans, and I'm cracking some jokes. No, but you know what I mean?
But I guarantee that exists. Guarantee. I laugh because it's like holy shit, but I would be blown away if that's not happening.
Like if Piper or Brooklyn came to me and said, and Amy's comes in here and says, I think you guys are onto something about fatherhood, daughters, values, not in a shaming way, but in a human way. Like if Piper or Brookie came to me and said, hey dad, I want to set up an OnlyFans page. Like the worst reaction I could have would be, no, you can't. That's the worst reaction. And not so much, no, you can't. It would be, and Adam, with all respect, brother, I love you for tuning in, but I couldn't even go at I would disown you because right off the bat, my relationship is done. I need to lean in and ask what you just said, but why? I'm curious.
Yeah,
why?
It's a nice neutral response because you don't want to impact that response one way or the next. It might be, okay, kiddo, let's talk about it.
And then, Johnny, is there a safe way to go about it? Where we've talked before about not agreeing to disagree, but agreeing to support. Because let's face it, right? They're adults at that stage, and you're like, okay, so if this is the choice you're going to make, I've decided that I'm unconditionally loving you. You're my daughter. I unconditionally love you, regardless if you're failing or succeeding, unconditionally.
Yep.
And if this is the choice you're ultimately going to be making, it's going to take a lot of fucking courage for me or you to say, okay, I'm going to support that. I don't agree with it, but I'm going to support it. Right? Getting that? Like that's a big one.
100%. I mean, because when it comes down at the end of the day, whatever choices my kids make, they're not getting disowned.
Yeah. Yes.
There's no way. There's no way. And keep in mind, I thank my blood dad because he basically pushed me away. He estranged me because I basically told him no for the first time. Right. So, but my point is that there's nothing that my kids can say now that that's happened. And I thank my blood dad for helping me see the other side of this equation.
Yeah.
There's nothing that my kids could say or do that would make me disown them. I might have to love them from a different vantage point. That makes sense?
It does. Yeah. Unconditional love is a tough thing, isn't it?
Fuck yes, it is. And I didn't know it. Like I said, I thank my blood dad. Because I didn't really understand unconditional love until he estranged me. Right. And at that point, I was like, I got a very different perspective on what unconditional love was, because there was a lot of conditions to my love, which I didn't know I was putting on love. Well, and that's not the way it should be.
And I'll be vulnerable. Love you, mom and dad. Love you to pieces, mom and dad. But I felt growing up in many ways that there was conditions on love for me. Right. Which was, oh, Keith, your hair is too long. Oh, so it was this, if I wasn't confining to what I felt like, which was my parents' box, like I couldn't grow up and be a gas pump jockey because I didn't feel like they would love me, because that was not what I was not going to be, the doctor or the lawyer. So I got to be honest, man, it took me a long time to understand and recognize the idea of unconditional love, because I don't even know if I felt it myself from my own parents, frankly. Being really honest about it, right? Which is because I'm
so with you there, brother. I'm so with you, because it's like we fear, like I feared, I want to do what I want to do, but am I still going to be loved? And that was a huge thing that I had, you know what I mean? And so like my mother, she didn't understand what I was doing for a long time, but even though she disagreed and was worried and blah, 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 she loved me just the same.
Yes.
And so, but even the fact that I was getting it on one side and not the other, you have to really experience unconditional love, on a pretty, like, I don't know what you say. Like I needed to see it on both sides to understand it. I didn't get it on one side, so I didn't understand it. That makes sense. Well, if my mom unconditional loves it and my dad doesn't, it's conditional. Well, then there must be other people that will do it the same way.
Bingo. Yep. I think the frank reality is, Johnny, and I don't know if you've experienced it with your kids, and I don't even know if I've experienced it with my kids, is that no, I don't think I have. is that when your kids tell you something that you vehemently disagree with, and you have to find a way to look in the mirror and dig in for that unconditional love.
Yeah. I mean, the thing that I kind of come down to with unconditional love is things may not be the way I want them to be, but it doesn't change the love that I have for the people that I love unconditionally.
Yes. Adam's got a great comment here, Johnny. My mom would always say she would always love me, but she doesn't have to say always like me. And his comment was, that made me double take and rethink my actions, which is interesting, right? Because he knows that she loves him, but he knows that his actions she's not liking, and he's been able to separate that. Right. So like, okay, this action here, I know she's loving me. I know when I fall, she's going to love me. I know when I win, she's going to love me. But these actions along the way, she's not liking. And that's what's causing her distress. That's a really good point of view, Adam. I appreciate that. So great conversation, Johnny. Let's go to the creator spotlight and wrap it up. I didn't expect it to be such a heavy chat on a Friday, but I'm loving it, man. It's good, deep, connecting conversation. Jimmy, let's go to the creator spotlight. We're going to wrap it up with Keith and Johnny here. You got to go in here with 8:25, or you got to go right now, brother?
25. Got 25. Get me out of 25. We're good. All
right, so let's do it. Jimmy, let's get after it. So listen, have you ever felt like you're crushing it on the outside? I know Johnny has, but on the inside, you're a total mess. Like you've built the career, you've hit the milestones, you've checked all the boxes, but somehow your brain is still finding a way to convince you that you're failing. This guy gets it. He went from high-achieving, perfect kid, Johnny, to Ironman triathlete to startup founder. And then he went straight into the brick wall of burnout, panic attacks, and feeling completely lost. What did he do? He didn't sit in the corner and wallow. He didn't go in the corner and cry. He didn't sit back and bitch about, oh, the world's against me. Woe is me. Woe is me. Nah, none of that, Johnny. He spent 15 plus years figuring it out. Therapy, coaching, founding a mental health startup, training in somatic experiencing to understand how trauma shapes success. And now he's sharing it all with the world. Jimmy, let's get after it. Today, Mornings in the Lab is really excited to celebrate somebody on the Substack platform who's getting after it every single day after his journey. Jimmy, let's do it, my friend. Mornings in the Lab with Keith and Friends is excited to absolutely celebrate this morning in our creator spotlight. This guy, his name is Jimmy, Johnny, Marty, Patrick Murphy. Yes. This guy went from a high-achieving perfect kid to Ironman triathlete to startup founder. That's exactly what he did. He is all about his Substack, Relearn to Fly, is about exactly that. Figuring out how to do life differently when the old ways.
I like that. Relearn to Fly. That's a good one.
I love it. So I saw this too, John. I know you were going to like, that's why I'm glad you're here to stick around with this, because this guy is about how to figure out to do life differently when the old ways stop working. Right, John? We always say it. It's why do we got to keep going back to what got you here is not going to get you to the next level. It's a constant reset, right? And he talks about mental health meets real life, not just theory, but his own journey, mistakes, and lessons. No fluff, no cliches, just straight talk, useful tools, and a little humor. For high achievers who feel stuck, the people who look successful but don't feel it. If you've ever felt like you're failing at having it all, if you've ever thought, why am I still so anxious? If you ever want a different way to live, lead, and love, Patrick's writing isn't just worth reading. It's worth saving your sanity. Guys, I invite you, go check out Patrick Murphy on Substack. Your nervous system will thank you. He's all about a dude that has went through his journey in life and he's resetting the next journey. And as you guys heard me say earlier, what got you here is probably not what's going to get you to the next step. So you got to pause, you got to reset, you got to analyze, and you got to find another gear. Patrick Murphy can help you do that. So Patrick, here's how it works, brother. We're celebrating you here this morning on Mornings in the Lab. And now what we want to do is we want to offer you a platform to celebrate somebody in your orbit, somebody who you think's doing great stuff, somebody who you think we need to shine a light on and bring him here into the lab and celebrate him as well. So Patrick Murphy, the invite is over to you, brother. Come join myself, John Anderson, and Christopher Martin for Mornings in the Lab with Keith and Friends. All right, buddy. That's it. I got you out of here. It's 8:25. Perfect. You have yourself a great day. I know the next 24 hours are big for you and Tara. I'm excited about it. I'm thinking about it. And I know I owed you a text from yesterday. I forgot it. I got to send you a text regarding
We're busy dudes. I get it, brother.
I know. I got you there. Say hi to Terry for me. You get after it. I'm going to wrap the show up with Jimmy, and we'll catch you over the weekend. Okay, brother?
Have a good loop, brother.
All right, pal. All right, John is going to get out of here. We're going to keep it rolling here. There's these sounds. Yes. Jimmy. Jimmy comes in and says, producer Jimmy comes in and says, I have a daughter. She was 9 this week. Happy birthday, little girl. And if that happens to me, he says, surely he would get a violent reaction. It's hard to argue with that. What you're wondering is, yeah, my daughter came home and said she's going to be an OnlyFans model. Like, what? Where did I go wrong? That's probably the first question we ask ourselves as a male or as a dad. Where did I go wrong? And then he says, but I think that's the wrong approach. But he's right. It's a normal reaction. But guys, you know, that initial reaction leads to unconditional love. So it's finding a way to project no conditions around that discussion. And Jimmy says, you know, that made me double take and rethink my actions. And it's true. It's true, right? So I got to think, Jimmy, got to think there's a lot of dads. Amy, thank you. I appreciate that. Major applause for the show. You know what we're trying to do here, girl. You know what we're trying to do here. But Jimmy, I got to think there's a lot of dads. You know, there's a dad waking up today. Jimmy, there's a dad waking up today whose daughter's coming home and she's saying, hey, Dad, I got an OnlyFans page. Or the daughter's saying, hey, Dad, Uncle Joe, he's subscribing to my OnlyFans page. You're like, oh, man, really? Or you're like, hey, Dad, yeah, Uncle Joe was at the family party last night and he's a subscriber to my OnlyFans. How do you react? Do you get mad? Do you get angry? Do you support? Do you reflect? Do you agree to disagree? What do you do? Amy, it's a great conversation. I think we got to keep having it here in the lab. How do you react, man? Because you I got 2 daughters. You don't push them away. What are you gonna do? Push them away to the other man in their life that you don't know about? So we got to find a way to bring that unconditional aspect to it, right? So, and then of course we had a great conversation throughout the show here with Dr. Raymond Abdulrahman. Talked about diversity, equity, inclusion. Talked a little bit about sex too, guys. We did. We know we'd like to talk about here in the show. Gen Z has no interest in having sex in the movies or sex in the TV shows. No, that's just the Gen Xers, Amy. That's just the old 50-year-old dudes, Jimmy, that are like, yeah, we grew up having sex on television. Hey, listen. If you grew up with Baywatch, all you have to do is just hang on that. There you go. You know what? The biggest celebrity in the world, David Hasselhoff. Right? And you got Pamela Anderson there. Like, what else do you need, guys? You know, bodies on the beach and an entire generation influenced by Baywatch and Amy, WWE. There you go. So you wonder why people are how they are? Yeah, they grew up with Baywatch and WWE. Okay, Jim. Time to wrap it. Another great weekend here in the lab. Mornings in the lab with Keith and friends. Listen, I got a couple things for you guys to consider. 2 things. If you're enjoying the men's conversation, the men's content, the content that helps you get out of bed, the content that helps you achieve those big goals, the content that helps you be accountable, good time, Shinku. Scott Benzie, great talk. We need to discuss and hear this conversation. Jimmy, fuck. We're giving all these props to Jimmy these days. I told Jimmy, Scotty, Shinku, good time. I told Jimmy that we're going to make him a superstar in the Philippines here. We're going to bring him out here. The super producer of Mornings in the Lab with Keith and friends. We're just getting started here. My goal here is to have a statue in Manila or somewhere where Jimmy lives, like this big statue. Producer Jimmy, right, with a board, buttons that he can press and celebrate. And people wake up every single day revering to producer Jimmy. That's the goal here. So Jimmy's going to keep after it here in the lab. Oh, man, we'd like to have fun here. But as I was saying, if you guys are enjoying these conversations, the men conversations, the conversations that help you think about life, the conversations that help you achieve those goals, the conversations that help you stay accountable to what you're trying to achieve next, the conversation that prevents the snooze button, this is the show for you. Subscribe to it. Hit the channel. Hit the like. Tell your friends. Tell your buddies. Tell them there's 3 dudes that have guests that have conversations you're not going to find elsewhere. But if you're also somebody who has something to say, Benzie, ears up. Adam, ears up. If you got something to say, ask yourself, are you the shepherd or are you the sheep? Who do you think I am? I think I'm the shepherd. Because if you're the shepherd, you're leading the conversation. And guys, I'm going to tell you something right now, if you're tuning in. There is knowledge in your brain, Benzie, there's knowledge in your brain that people want from you. You're going, what? It's true. Benzie, there is. There's a lot of knowledge in your brain that you've accumulated over the years. Same with you, Adam. Same with you, Shinku. Same with you, Amy. All that knowledge locked up, people want it. Like, well, how do I get it out to them? I'll tell you how you get it out to them. You start a morning conversation. I didn't say show. I said morning conversation. Yeah. If you start that morning conversation, 30 minutes, 60 minutes, for your community, you're going to start the conversation. You're going to set the conversation for the day. And then if you're really good at it, you're going to do it again the next day. And the next day, and the next day. And what's going to happen over time is that you're going to be the leader of those sheep, Mr. Benzie. So if you're going through your life looking to get to the next stage in your career or looking to be a mover and shaker, I could not encourage you enough to consider starting a morning conversation. Why am I telling you that? Because I can help you do it. Oh yeah, true story. I can help you do it. Yeah, that's how we're going to make some money here in the lab. Here's the thing, guys. Here's the thing, right? We're creating the biggest morning show for men. It's free for all you guys. No monetized. Nobody's being charged anything. Just coming around Keith V's all the time. Yeah, there's a true story. But along the way, we got to find some ways to make some money. We have this platform underneath the show that brings it all to life. Maybe somebody wants to start their own conversation. We can help you do it. Maybe you just simply want to create some content, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 60 minutes to get out in front of your communities. We can help you do that as well. So if you are looking for creator-led content, if you're looking for content that helps you do things behind the ways and maybe might help you on your creator journey, I would invite you to subscribe to our Substack, inside.bapple.ai. That's going to give you some behind the scenes content that's going to help you do the things that I do. Learn about how we do this show. Maybe learn how to start your own live conversation. I dropped a hack there yesterday. Man, I was doing these videos after the show and I thought that I needed to go listen, here's a true story for you guys. I've been delaying doing videos in a different way because I'm like, fuck, I don't got the lighting set up. I don't got the right studio set up. And I was looking around here stressing about what I had to do. And then I walked upstairs one day. I was like, wait a minute, it's fucking natural light over there. I took this little doohickey gadget I bought on Instagram for $70, stuck it on my window. Boom, natural light, great video. Yeah. So if you're looking for tidbits and tricks to become your own leader of your community, come subscribe to my Substack. And if you're looking for this continued conversation for men, stay here on the channel. 2 ways to get after it, boys. All right, Jamie. I love it, Scotty. You're the shepherd. I know you are. Yeah, I know you are. Don't be the sheep. That's why you're on this show. And that's the thing. This show brings shepherds to the show. And that's why I'm thinking if you're a sheep, come knock on my door so I can help you become that shepherd that you want to be. Okay, well, it's time to go to my day job. Like, what? What's the day job? The day job, building the media business behind the scenes. Mornings in the lab, business after the that's the day job. This is the fun part. So we're going to go. I'm going to turn the goodbye music on here, and we're going to slowly start walking away out of here. So Jimmy, on behalf of producer Jimmy, the famous Jimmy in the Philippines, there's only one famous Jimmy in the Philippines. He's on my show. On behalf of producer Tommy, he's also in the community there engaging with you guys. Go find Walter Thomas. Go engage with him. Go subscribe to him. Go ask him about his coffee. Walter Thomas runs a coffee plantation in the Philippines. Yeah. You guys like coffee? We got to learn more from Walter and the coffee. Listen, guys, I learned when I went to where'd I go? Peru, was it? No, Panama. I learned all about coffee, and I learned about how damn difficult it is to make. You know, we quickly just dump the old coffee down the drain. The work that it goes into brew a cup of coffee, guys, don't just dump it down the drain. Man, it's a pretty big process. On behalf of C. Marty Fit, the boy wonder, Christopher Martin himself. On behalf of John Anderson, the guy who picks up heavy things and puts them down. You can find us every single day here, 8 o'clock Eastern time. Mornings in the lab with Keith and friends. On behalf of me, Jimmy, Tommy, Dr. Abdulrahman, subscribe to the channel, you guys. We'll see you Monday, 8 o'clock Eastern time, right here. Jimmy, let's get out of here.